to Mobility Mondays. My name is Maggie. I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science, and I'm also a licensed physical therapist assistant. Today I'm going to be taking you through a total hip range of motion program. Also just general hip muscle stretching as well. For this class you will need a strap. If you don't have a fancy strap like this, you can just use like a really long towel or a belt or something. So we're going to be laying down and pulling your leg up with that. You'll also need a mat to lay down or something comfortable to lay down with. While I'm explaining some of the hip mechanics, let's go ahead and get into like an active warm-up march here. So just go ahead and give me a general march. So as I'm explaining this to you, I'm going to show you, but I want you to keep up with your march. So the hip has 6 different motions. So the first one being flexion, then extension, then you have abduction and abduction, and you also have internal and external rotation. So we're going to be working through all those motions to help improve if you have any hip stiffness or pain. I will show you how to work through that. So let's take it into a hip opener. So if balance is an issue for you, you're going to want to make sure that you kind of do this in front of like your kitchen counter, or you can even like bring, if you have like a small portable chair, you can have it right next to you to hold on to like the back of the chair. Just make sure you're doing this safely today. So we're just kind of working through to open that hip up, and I don't want you to force anything, just kind of meet yourself where you're at. Let's take it into a hip up and over, so like pretend like you're stepping over a fence, and then bring that back. So go ahead and alternate legs again, over and back. Okay, so you'll notice that I'll probably say this a lot when we're doing our stretching. You never want to force anything. It should never be painful. If it is, you're taking it too far. So you'll also notice with doing this stretching, let's take it into a knee pull, that with repetition, it should start to loosen. So you never want to force anything. Just kind of mild to moderate stretch, we'll say. Then of course, if you have any major hip issues, you're going to want to see your doctor. But as long as you're just having general pain and tightness, this should really help loosen things up. Okay, so then let's also take it into like a standing quad stretch. So just be careful again with your balance. You're pulling back until you feel that kind of in the front of the hip and mainly of course into the quad. So just a good general warm up here. So our next move, we're going to take your feet like hip, a little wider than hip width apart. And this is when I want you to really start gently. So you're going to kind of lunge on one leg, keeping the other leg straight, and then switch. Okay, so I can kind of feel like I'm a little bit actually tighter in my left than my right, probably because I've been doing a lot of work on my right hip because I have a little bit of a hip issue myself. Right now I did, we were on a trip in Hawaii in September. I did a ton of hiking and kind of rock climbing really. I did a triathlon and just a lot of running in general, different trails. So I've been rehabbing a little hip issue myself, and this series here that I'm going to show you has been great with that. So we're going to take into something that I call a strider. This is a pretty aggressive hip stretch. So again, I want you to be really careful not to force anything. So I kind of want you to get into this plank position. And then you're going to bring your one foot forward and then switch. Okay, so you can see I'm in that deep hip flexion when I'm doing this work. Again, if this is too much for you, let's drop it to the knees. And then you're just going to do like maybe like slightly forward, or just even like a little mountain climb position. But let's get back into it. So I want you to really try to kind of loosen things up with this now. Let's take this one step further, and let's bring our right foot forward and pause. And then we're going to rotate. So yes, you're going to get spinal mobility, but also through the hip. So try to take your elbows almost down towards the floor. Again, I'm really tight. Hopefully you can get a little bit further than me on this part of taking your elbow like down, your leg towards the floor. And then let's go ahead and switch after this one and repeat on the other side. So we're rotating up. Again, not forcing anything, dropping down, trying to get that elbow down towards the floor. You can see I'm pretty far away. seated position, we're going to do what I call a 90-90 hip opener. So you're going to sit with your feet wider than hip width apart, and then you're going to externally rotate the left, internally rotate the right. And then we're just going to switch back and forth. Again, not forcing anything. Maybe you're kind of here, and that's where you feel a good stretch. That's fine. But I'm going to take it. You could even kind of lean into it a little bit once you get into that position, as long as it's not painful. And we're just going through the joint range of motion. And let's do one more to each side. Then we're going to take it into a hip flexor stretch, so we're going to be kind of back on the hands and knees again. Let's do left foot forward first, okay? So then I'm going to have you kind of shift your pelvis for what we call an anterior rotation of the pelvis. And then we're going to lunge forward on that left leg, so we feel it in the front of here. Even to get it a little bit deeper, you can take your arm overhead. And it's just going to hold for a few seconds. I like to do it stretches anywhere from 10 seconds to 30 seconds. Kind of just depending on how I'm feeling. If I need more of a stretch, I'll take it for more of a stretch. This feels right, about 10 seconds for me today. If you want longer, please hit pause on this video, and you can definitely stretch out longer. Let's go ahead and switch. So right leg forward, left leg back. Anteriorly rotate the pelvis. Then start to lunge forward on that right leg. Left arm overhead for a bit of a deeper stretch. And we're holding, come out of it for just a little rest break, and repeat. Okay, so then one more here. We're going to take it into some deeper hip range of motion. So again, hands and knees. I want you to kick your right leg up and then out and around and bring it back down to starting position. So you're getting extension, you're getting external rotation, abduction, bringing it back down, reversing all through the hip joint, okay? So let's do one more there, then we're going to reverse direction. So now we're going to take our leg out, up, and back down, okay? Out, up, and back down. Let's try 2 more of those. Okay, then we're going to switch. Left leg's going to come up, out, circle back down, around. We're hitting all the deepest pockets of that hip joint. Again, if you're here and that's what feels good to you, that's where you're at. But see if you can take it in. You might even get a little hip crack with this, so just don't be surprised if you do. As long as it's not painful. Reverse the direction, out, up, and down. Good. Let's try 2 more there. 1 more. Then you're going to lay on your belly, and we're going to work through the only ones we couldn't work through too deeply were the hip internal and external rotation. So I'm going to have you just bend your knee up, and then you're going to let your leg drop in. That's external rotation on the right hip, and out is internal rotation. Okay, so let's kind of go out and in a few times. And I already feel I'm getting a little bit deeper with that. That feels really good. And 1 more to each direction. And then drop that leg. Let's go ahead and switch. Left leg, external rotation, internal rotation. I know it kind of sounds opposite of what you think it might, because your foot's dropping in when you externally rotate, but it's actually what it's doing in the hip joint, okay? So let's go ahead, and it's time to grab our straps. Let's go ahead onto our backs. And then we're going to start with a hamstring stretch on the right. So, right strap right underneath your foot, pulling in, trying to keep the knee mostly straight until you feel a good stretch. Well, mild to moderate, nothing severe, right? And we'll hold for a few seconds. And then we're going to take it out. I like to use my other arm to kind of stabilize my upper body. And you're going to take it out. And just let the foot kind of lower naturally with gravity close to the floor. I have probably a half a foot before up to the floor. So you might not get there, but close to the floor. And then take it across the other way. And then if you'd like, you could repeat that a few times if it felt really tight. I'm going to move on to my other leg though. So same thing, hamstring stretch here. You could even push the knee straight a little bit if you have a tendency to kind of pull in like this. So trying to stretch that out. And then I am kind of limited with my home studio here on space, so be careful. It doesn't look like I'm hitting the wall, but hopefully you have a little bit more space. And then we're going to take it up and across. Okay, now the only muscle of the hip that we really haven't stretched is the piriformis, is a deep hip rotator muscle. You might have heard of it before. It's a common troublemaker as sometimes the sciatic nerve can cross through it, which can create problems down the leg if that's tight for you. So I like to grab my right leg, left hand on the tibia, right hand on the femur, and I kind of pull together towards my left shoulder. So you're going to the opposite side, should feel it kind of down in the buttock area. And we'll hold for a few, relax, and repeat again. So this doesn't feel too tight for me today. I have kind of been working through, like I said, I've been trying to rehab some hip issues, so let's go ahead and switch. And again, if you feel like one side's tighter than the other, maybe you do a few more reps on that side. So again, not forcing anything. This is a really deep hip stretch, so you have to meet yourself where you're at. Okay? So we've now gone through all the major range of motion of the hip. We have stretched all the muscles surrounding the hip joint as well. Thank you so much for joining. If there is anything else that you would like to see, please feel free to comment, and I would really appreciate it if you would rate this class. Thanks so much.